I have to.
All right, so we're back, and today I want to talk about a couple that I know. They had been monogamous most of their relationship, and they have like I think a 9-year-old kid, and they're in their late 30s, early 40s, and um, she was basically like she had put her entire 30s, she was a mother and she was dedicated to the relationship. But I think over the years, she started discovering that maybe her husband had some mild depression. Maybe he had some other stuff, maybe some unresolved trauma. And she was about to turn 40 and she was like, I don't want to live like this anymore, basically. And her and I talked, and her main thing was like, yeah, I want more sex, basically. I want to feel attractive. I want to feel sexual. And I would love it if I could take on a boyfriend. And then slowly it started coming out that like maybe they weren't having sex, maybe her husband wasn't as interested in hooking up with her and things like that. And so of course I was like, I think that's great. I'm not really part of this story, so we did consult a few times, but I don't really know that held how much like she listened to me or anything, so it's not really part of it. Anyway, long story short, she decided to take on a lover. She decided to, you know, bring another guy into the picture. And she basically told him, this is what I'm going to do. Like it was kind of
Him meaning her husband. This is what
yeah,
I'm
she
gonna
told the
do.
husband, like, I want to take on a boyfriend. And initially he was kind of like, okay, sure. It caused a little bit of strife in the beginning, but then he was like trying to get on board with it. He was like, this is what my wife wants and she still loves me, and you know I'll try to get on board. But then they started doing a deep dive into like understanding non-monogamy and ethical and consensual non-monogamy. And then all of a sudden, he one day tells me, this isn't consensual non-monogamy. This is non-consensual non-monogamy. She's doing it without my consent. It's like the minute he learned
The word, the
what it
word was, yes.
like the word and like what it really meant, that was when he decided, like he learned also that no, this isn't what I want and this is not consensual.
Mm.
And at that point though, the doors had been flung open, right? They're already in this open relationship and now he's saying it's not consensual. you know and maybe it never was. Maybe, like, I don't know all the details. Maybe she was like, F this, I'm going to do this no matter what you say. I'm going to have this boyfriend. And but at that point it's kind of too late to close it. Like if you're gonna say like no to your wife about something like that, you kind of say it early on, right? But I think he was trying to be like, no, let's be cool and let's talk about it more. And but by this point, her relationship with this other person is in full swing. And now he's saying it's non-consensual. And then so fast forward, that was probably like a year and a half ago. And she had been dating this other guy and kind of like on and off. Sometimes she would break up with him, not break up with him. Sometimes she would like cool it a little bit because they had their own issues. Her and the new guy had their own issues, right? Sometimes she would cool it a little bit. And then sometimes it would be back on. And so it was kind of just like, we know what's happening. Obviously, she's committed to her kid, right? With her husband. Like that's her first priority. Well, more recently, he has been basically like he punishes her every time she goes over and stays with the other guy. It's like the silent treatment for days, that kind of thing. And then more recently, he said he's going to file for divorce.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I thought it was a interesting story to bring up because it was like the more he learned about ethical non-monogamy, usually we have like these situations, like the more people learn about something, the more they become open to it,
Yeah.
right? The more they start to be like, wow, this could be beneficial for me too,
Mhm.
right? The more they become curious about it.
Yeah.
But I feel like the opposite happened. He actually learned that it wasn't consensual. And then he was
Yeah.
like, well, this is not consensual. And then he was like, no, I don't want it at all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What are
So,
your guys' thoughts on that?
oh, well, I have a question. I don't know
Yeah.
if you know that. Was he participating in this non-monogamy as well?
Yeah, I think, and this is another interesting topic, because I think that we see this a lot, that I think he tried,
Hmm.
but he's a 40-year-old man,
Hmm.
and I think it was hard for him to
Hmm.
actually meet people.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and I think that even though, and I do think that he did meet some people, but I think when you're coming off of it as like a reaction, like it's reactionary, it's not something that you're choosing yourself.
Hmm.
I think it becomes less exciting, right? Now you're just kind of doing it because you have to.
Yeah.
I think other people can feel that too, not necessarily consciously, but I think
Mhm.
you kind of could give off a different kind of energy too if it's not coming from your choice. Does it
Right.
make sense? Like
Yeah.
the energy that you give off meeting other
It's
people.
pressured.
Yeah.
It's like forced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
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 Because I even noticed, I was like, whoa. Like all of a sudden, he's much more touchy feely,
Yeah.
Yeah.
asking some of our very lesbian friends out.
Yeah. Right,
Yeah.
right. So, and me, I get a totally different thought. What comes up for me is that that maybe, yeah, he didn't want it. Doesn't, if he did or didn't, that's irrelevant right now. I'm gonna get back to that part. But the fact that he did start to participate and maybe things didn't happen the way he wanted it to. So then the frustration kicks in. It's like, I don't want to do this. I never wanted to do this. It's not what I want to do. And that's a very familiar feeling to me because of me and Melissa's relationship. And so I would even go back even to when he said it, that this is what I chose. You had the opportunity to not choose it and you chose it. So you can't really talk about where you are now compared to where you were, because you were, like where you are now, you're in a ethically non-monogamous consensual relationship. You are in that, regardless of how it started, but you are in that now. And so with you being that now, if that's not what you want to be in anymore, then let's have that conversation. We can't say, well, I never wanted to be in it, because you're in it and you're participating. So
Yeah.
it's a different conversation to have.
There's a lot of, I just heard this term today from a client. There's a lot of emotional drunkenness. Have you guys heard that term
Hmm.
before? My
Exactly.
client actually called her husband. Um, she said, "You're not emotionally sober." And what it translated to me was like, okay, this person is extremely dysregulated. And I think that's what happened, is what you're talking about, is he was just so dysregulated and didn't know how. It's just kind of like flip-flopping. Okay, now I'm open to it. Okay, now it's non-consensual. Now I'm getting a divorce. It's like just kind of flip-flopping all over the place.
Yeah. And again, goes back to, and I can relate so many things because me and Melissa have been through so many things in our 22-year relationship that everything is so relatable to me. I remember Melissa would say this thing to me and I didn't get it. And then when it made sense to me, it made so much sense. She said, Wayne, because I would be dysregulated. And she was
Mhm.
like, Wayne, I can't go there where you are. because if I go there, it's gonna be really hard for me to get out of that space. So I'm not going to go where you are because I'm going to
Wow.
take care of me. And when I thought about it, I was like, dang, when we would get into that space and she would go there with me, a day or two later, I'll be out of it. I'm good. Melissa isn't good. And I would hate that. Why are you not good? Why aren't you where, out? And so now I thought I was like, oh wow, like yeah. And so when she said it to me, I was like, oh yeah, I don't want you to go there because then you'll be there after I'm out of it. So let me figure out a way to get out of this. And so I can
She
regulate,
would
figure
set
out
a
a way to regulate
boundary.
myself,
So
right?
Melissa would set a boundary that would say, I'm not going to engage in
100%.
this
Yeah.
dysregulation, circus drama.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was so happy she did it because it was she said things like that throughout the relationship, and it's been so helpful for me on my journey to help me grow so much because I get to a moment to sit back and just be like, oh wow, like that makes a lot of sense, you know, And I'm gonna jump real quick, but because I know Melissa got something to say. I remember when I was in this space early on in our relationship around sexual intimacy between the two of us, how often it would happen, and one day she said to me, she's like, you know what, Wayne, just because you're ready and you're wanting sex doesn't mean that I'm ready and my body is wanting to have sex. Like you're asking me to participate in something I'm not wanting to participate in. I was like, oh wow, damn, it makes so much sense. Like, oh, and so I had to respect that. And it just didn't dawn on me, like, oh yeah, you're ready because I'm ready. Like, yeah, and it's like, wow, like man, something so simple as that. Like, yeah. But anyways,
Hmm. It makes me think I'm kind of want to go all the way back to him finding out about consensual non-monogamy and then okay and then being like, this is not consensual.
Mhm.
Because I think the first path we took to explore it was like, oh, was he kind of, or at least this is what I got from it, is he's kind of using that, you know what I mean? Was he kind of utilizing this new language or this new term to kind of flip-flop things because he's dysregulated? Is that what you were saying, Mo? Of like,
Mhm. Yeah, I think, yes. Yeah, I think, to just like put it bluntly, like, yeah, it was just a form of like, okay,
manipulation or Mhm.
now you know what consensual non-monogamy is, and it's not consensual. Or it wasn't, it didn't feel consensual at least. But the thing is, at some point he went along with it, but maybe he felt like he didn't have a choice, right? He was going to lose his family over.
Yeah. And so that's the part that I kind of was curious about and picked up on, one, just naturally listening to the story, but also because kind of remembering what Wayne and I went through as well. And
Yeah.
I remember him feeling he would repeat it over and over. It was just like, but I never asked to be here, or I never wanted to be here, or we shouldn't be here. We shouldn't even be here in the first place. And I would get so annoyed by that and frustrated by that because I'm like, but we're here. But it's like you said, Mo, but
Go
we're here.
backwards.
We're
Yeah.
here. Like, why do you keep trying to take us backwards to where we're at? We are here now. So what are we going to do about it? And at the same time, I I think in hindsight, kind of after we went through our stuff and I was able to kind of look back, I think just a little softer and with more, empathy for Wayne. I think maybe the way that he was approaching it kind of I had my defenses up,
Mhm.
so but kind of later I was like, well, I can understand, even though I didn't like the way he addressed it or approached it with me, like I can understand his experience of maybe feeling powerless or feeling like, he doesn't have any control in this, or like he's kind of backed into a corner, or like you said, or scared, like maybe I'm gonna lose you or lose this relationship if I don't agree to this, and so it's like,
I think that's a huge point, the powerlessness,
yeah.
right? All
Mhm.
of these are potential power plays in the sense that, like, if I can get some power, maybe this will help me get my power back.
Right.
Right?
Regain that control, regain that power, that sense of
Yeah.
control or power. And um, so I have empathy for that. And also I can understand just I guess the conflict that it can cause, because, I remember too, I also was feeling the same way, right? Like I also was feeling disempowered in the relationship. And maybe I got to a point where I was like, setting boundaries now, or kind of making decisions, that felt important to me, and kind of allowing Wayne to decide how he wanted to respond to it. But, and so I felt very righteous. I felt very like I deserved I deserved to be able to do that, because I've been whatever my story was in my head, XYZ, I've kind of been suppressing, or I've been kind of putting up, or I've been going through your way, or doing it your way, or I've been taking care of you, or all these reasons why in my mind I felt very like righteous to do what I wanted to do, or to make a decision like this is what I want to do. And whether or not that's right or wrong, like I'm just kind of seeing all of the different parts in how it can get there, and how sometimes like I felt Wayne would be manipulating the situation, with whatever different language, or like what I felt like was punishment. Every time I'd go out, it always seemed to be a problem, a thing coming up. Like the goalpost was constantly changing of what's the issue now, and he'd always be like, there is no issue, da, da, da. Or, well, he'd like make it very situational. I was like, this is the same thing happening over and over and over again. Let's address that. I
Hmm.
think that's the thing that I learned was like, what are we not talking about here? Because it's really not about other people or the non-monogamy. Like, it's what is it really about? And at the end of the
Power.
day, yeah, the power dynamics. At the end of the day, we were having to talk about just the hard part of what our intimacy was looking like, or not looking like, and yeah, the difficult feelings that was coming up around that, like grief in the relationship, just of how it was changing, and
Yeah.
how we might have wanted the relationship to be a particular way, but it's not happening that way. So those were the things that we ultimately like got down to talking about. Um, that I think we weren't really addressing, and getting kind of distracted by these other things. So,
Yeah. Yeah. That reminded me of, I think that we often couples, and I think with this particular couple, opening up is seen as like a panacea to fix the relationship, right? And I think this is why a lot of couples that are like, well, don't we need to work on our relationship before we open it up? And we're all, one of the theories is like, well, no, sometimes opening it up forces you to work on your relationship, right? What's going to happen is going to happen. And like, but you have to, if you're not going to work on it, right? Like in their situation, I think there was a lack of intimacy. And I think when she started dating someone else, she was like, and he was like, well, no, I don't want this. And she was like, well, then I need this from you. And then that was like the new agreement. Okay, well, then yes, we'll have to increase our intimacy at home, because that's really, I think, what she really was missing. And when that didn't happen, it kind of everything just started to fall. Like I think the husband, of course, this is according to her, of course, like that the husband like got comfortable again, like got comfortable again and stopped showing up for her, and things
yeah,
kind of went back to, and then so she started
yeah,
seeing the guy again.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Yep, it makes makes me think about this time with Wayne. We always talk about where I was like, when Wayne and I, when we weren't having a lot of sex, I was dealing with postpartum depression. I think we've said this a number of times on this podcast, but we weren't having sex, and also I was feeling very jealous and very insecure, just not wanting him to have sex with other people as well. So it's like I wanted both. I both did not want to have sex, and I did not want him to have sex with other people. And I wanted him to kind of figure it out for himself. You know what I'm saying? And
which is, yeah,
yeah.
you can masturbate. That's all you can
Yes,
do.
I literally told him that. So not proud of it. But yeah, I was like, why can't you just masturbate? Um, and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and that's just I was like, yeah, no, because it made
Well,
me feel I not it made me feel I felt very inadequate, you know,
mhm,
and I felt
mhm.
very, yeah, just yeah, inadequate, like, and just like, damn, I don't want to have sex but also, damn, how's he gonna go have sex with other people? That
And
makes
it's
me feel
not
like
even
shit.
about, it's not about the other people, like you said,
Right,
Melissa. It's not about the other people.
right.
It's about that inadequacy,
Yeah,
right? If he
exactly.
goes and does whatever, that inadequacy is not going away,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
That
And even
inadequacy.
if I did push through and have sex with him or try to, that inadequacy is still not going away.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
tried all of the paths. We tried pushing through. We tried just fuck it, we're not having sex. Like we tried, opening up, not opening up. So it's like those parts have to be dealt with. I agree with you, and I agree that it doesn't have to be so linear, and that you have to address your issues as a couple first, and then you can open up. I'm not a big fan of that. I'm like, I
Yeah.
think it can happen simultaneously. I don't recommend it for everybody.
Mhm.
But at the least I do say encourage, please address the core issues in your relationship.
Because
Either
they
way,
don't go away.
they don't go away. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that opening up can bring a layer of,
Yes.
it can bring a layer of complexity, right?
Hmm.
It can add layers of complexity, but it can also add layers of truth if you're willing to look at it, right?
Yeah.
That right there.
Yeah.
That right there. And that conversation around non-monogamy, yes, offers that opportunity of truth,
Mhm.
that I think a lot of times the monogamous, not to put them, to put them against each other, but yeah, it's just sometimes it doesn't happen. And kind of making that decision of exploring non-monogamy, it kind of acts as like a third party, where now we're able to address some difficult conversations that feel hard to bring up with each other. But if we're like doing the research or we heard this podcast or whatever, we can bring up like, I heard in this thing, I heard consensual non-monogamy, and I don't think this was very consensual,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know? Or
Yeah.
I heard somebody talking about like maybe we don't have to make this relationship work and give it our all. Maybe sometimes it's okay to end and transition the relationship. And I think that, or whatever the case, I'm just giving examples. Like
Mm.
sometimes it's not going to be to be together and to make the non-monogamy work. Sometimes it is like, the freedom to even have the conversation about, do we still want to do this? Do we choose to still have this relationship?
Yeah. A-
Yeah.
and to address um the consensual aspect of it, like within even with like so in me and Melissa relationship, to just to get some clarity to it, it was about him as well, like to connect it to him, is that when that shift in our relationship happened, it was more so that me and Melissa were doing everything together. We weren't doing anything separate. And so I felt like I was being pushed into a corner and I wasn't. It was just my perspective of reality at that point. I was being pushed to a corner to do this separate thing. But that wasn't the case at all. Melissa was saying, "Hey, Wayne, this is what I can't do. I just can't do it. So I'm saying to you to do this in this way because I can't do it." And so, and it wasn't, and I had created this narrative that no, she kind of made us do something we didn't want to do. But Melissa was only if she didn't show up for herself, what would have happened to us? If she didn't take care of herself, what would have happened to us? So it was her taking care of herself, essentially, which did cause change, but that makes sense because something had to change in order for her to feel healthy within a relationship. And so, and more so to back to his point, like so, yeah. When me and Melissa shifted, it didn't feel consensual, but it was consensual because it was either that because I could have stopped it at any time and I didn't, right? Because of what we talked about. And so, yeah, I just think that like for me, just like I can relate. It's relatable with this. Oh no, we're changing. I didn't ask for this, and it didn't feel consensual, but it actually really is because it's the person taking care of themselves. Because what is on the other side of the coin? If they don't take care of themselves, what happens to us then? Right?
Mhm. Right. Yeah. I mean, you can lean into it because it's changing anyway,
Yeah.
right? You can lean into the change, um, and go with the flow, or you
Yeah.
can resist and fight the change. But we
Yeah.
all know that what happens when you resist something, right? It
Yeah.
expresses itself anyway.
Yeah.
It expresses itself I always say sideways, but that can mean passive aggressively, secretively, violently. Like there's all manner of ways that when we repress something or we don't
Yep.
aren't honest about
Yep.
our struggles, that they come out.
It's gonna come out in some kind of way. Yeah.
And we see that in our work,
Yeah.
right? With couples. We all work with couples and they're all struggling. Every couple that we work with is struggling.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think we all have jobs because the monogamous structure doesn't work and most people are still following that structure, and they come to see you guys, you know, because they're like, is there a different way? Is there something else that we can do, because this isn't working, right?
You brought up a great point, Mo.
Wait, before you can I speak to? I think just because it's really small. I think that's one of the biggest things that I like to highlight in my sessions, and because I see that across the board. I just said it to a couple today too. Is I see that probably one of the biggest struggles that each couple has is like that adjustment to change. It's at the end of the day, that's what it ends up being. It's helping them to adjust with the change, helping them to recognize their resistance to what has already happened, because they're like, oh no, I didn't ask to be here. No, you did this to me. Oh
It's so
no.
the couples
And
think
I don't
their
mean to say it in that
relationship's
way
going
because
to
of course
stay
I
the way that
empathize
it
with them.
did.
Yeah.
But
Right? Like everyone that comes to our office wants their relationship how it was when they were like 1 year in and everything was blissful. And why can't we be like that? Because you will never be like that again. Like everything is going to change. And sometimes the changes are big and sometimes they're small, but
right.
you know.
And I'm adding to what she just said
Okay.
and what you said earlier is that because what you said I think is very important. I hope that people heard that. When the conversation is brought to you, the change is already in progress. When I bring the conversation to you, the shift has already happened. We're in it. So it's already we're in it now. Like I'm not just bringing it to you because hey, I got this idea. The shift has already happened
Mhm.
within me. That's why I'm bringing it to you. Yeah.
And
Yep.
so, what we really need to be telling couples and people everywhere is like, get into a relationship and know that it's going to be different 1 year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now. It is going to look so different, and allow for that change because you're going to grow. You're going to be different. Do you want to stay the same person that you are today? No, you're going to grow and be different. And like your partner is too. And you might not grow in the same direction, but that doesn't mean you can't be together.
Yeah.
Yep.
And to Melissa's point too about, and your point as well about the monogamous frame, I found myself doing work with a lot of monogamous couples recently, and I use non-monogamy framework to work with them to help them get back to communicating openly and honestly, and they like, oh wow, I guess I never looked at it like that because we aren't given the space in monogamous relationships to actually look at it like that. Because do we really have our own autonomy within a monogamous relationship to the extent that we wish that we did or we think that we have? Like everything is together.
No, we
We're
don't.
doing
I mean,
we're
most
doing
people don't.
everything for the betterment of the relationship, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we don't learn about relationships until we decide to change our monogamous relationship. And whether that means becoming open or getting a divorce, like that's when you learn about relationships. You don't learn about it when you get into it. You only learn about it when you're starting to rub up against the very narrow box that monogamy is, and you can't live in that box anymore. And that's when you start to change. That's when you learn how to talk about consent, how to communicate with your partner, how to ask for your needs. Prior to that, nobody knows how to do it because most of our parents weren't doing it.
Right.
Right? Our role models, our primary caregivers, look at their relationships.
Yeah.
Right? Like who do you know, like, and it's not to say that like even like my parents are still married, but I look at their relationship and I'm like, OMG, like what is happening here?
Yeah.
you know so just because you stay together out of some like Hindu nobleism, I don't know what it is, but you're not supposed to get divorced in traditional Indian culture, I guess, but it doesn't mean that they're communicating about anything in any healthy sort
Yeah.
of way at all.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So change is going to happen, and some kind of, did we say this in the podcast where I was like, how much space is there in your relationship to fuck up? Did we
Yeah.
talk about that? Because yeah,
Oh, no, I like that.
fuck ups are going to happen too. Like,
We've talked
and
about fuck ups before.
yeah, okay. I thought maybe we did because I like to share with my clients too. Like, I want to be here to support you in how you're going to get through those fuck ups, not to prevent them
Yeah.
because they're gonna
Yeah. They're
happen.
inevitable.
They're
Yeah.
gonna happen. And maybe they don't happen as much, over time.
Yeah.
Like maybe you kind of find a groove or whatever, because I think that's true too.
Yeah.
The fuck ups just are less intense. They're just like, oh, okay.
Mm.
And they're
Yeah.
not
I
they're not like fuck ups anymore. You just don't think about
yeah.
them that way anymore,
I like that question because I feel like I've been in relationships where there was no room,
Mm.
where there was no room to fuck up. And those were the relationships where I felt the most like I need my freedom. Right. And then I've been in relationships where there's so much space to just be yourself that you don't feel like you need to do anything different.
Right. Yeah, and to clarify, because that brings up a good point. It doesn't mean like, oh, we just, it doesn't mean like, oh, just do whatever the fuck you want to and fuck up. And that's not what I'm not talking about that extreme
Yeah.
of somebody just being careless and
Yeah.
like, that's not what I mean. But that, yeah, we're gonna make mistakes,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
how do we address them and
Yeah.
anticipate that they're gonna happen because we're human and it's part of a relationship. It's part
Yeah.
of, relating.
Yeah.
It's part of growth and change and all that good stuff. So,
And to your point, I think that the fuck ups, so-called fuck ups, aren't as big later on is because we've learned to manage all the other
right,
parts. And even if it was a big thing, we're still going
right.
to be able to manage it in a way that it
Yeah.
doesn't. We're not.
We're not panicking
Yeah.
You're not
anymore. We're like, oh my
catastrophizing
God, they're
anymore.
Yes.
gonna,
Yeah.
oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's exactly.
Who is this? I don't know this person.
Yeah.
Oh man, like one of the
Yeah.
first times that Wayne did something that I was like, oh my gosh, I remember just feeling like, who is this person? I don't know this person. And my
Mhm.
whole sense of self was threatened because, just this idea that I had of him, this pedestal that we put each other on, like it's not great at all.
Yeah.
And I think too, because we realized that, like you said, Mo, like that's kind of where, not to say that it always has to come from that place, but there are a lot of growth opportunities and learning opportunities, for ourselves and for the relationship. So we don't see them as fuck
Mm.
ups anymore. We just
Right.
see them as like, oh, it's a learning,
Yeah.
it's a
Pe-
change.
Yeah.
People tend to be like, if you tend to be in a healthy relationship, you model healthy relationships for your children who tend to grow up and become or be in healthier relationships. So we're modeling for our kids right now and how we're communicating. Not saying we're perfect, but they still see us get to work through things and all that kind of stuff and kind of
Mhm.
come together. Because one of the biggest things for me is when I hear a couple say that, well, we're together for the kids. Well, that's the worst thing because they see your dysfunction.
Yeah.
They see that you're not loving and caring for one another. They see and they like, okay, well, this is a regular relationship because my parents do this, so I guess I got to go through the same process too. And you don't. Like, don't do that for your kids. Like that's yeah. Oh, we gotta stay together for the kids, but what is that doing to the kids psychologically?
Yeah. Yeah, I do talk about this with couples because I think it's an important part of the work that we do. Um, like, it's important to model for us to model to our couples like rupture and repair, and for our couples to model to their kids. Like you
Yes.
can apologize about things, you can admit you were wrong, you can admit that you learned something new, you know, um, and we can do that with each other, and we can do that in front of our kids, and we can do that with our clients. Like that's also something that I don't think that we're taught, that you're allowed to screw up and that you're allowed to say, I'm sorry.
Yes.
And let's try, I want to do better,
Yeah.
and I acknowledge that that was, short-sighted on my part because I wasn't taught that.
Yeah. I actually just started something in the past few months. I asked my male clients who have male sons, I asked them, do they allow their son to see when they're and having anxiety or stressed, or do they allow them to see when they're feeling down or sad, or they or feeling any emotions? And I ask, and when they tell me no, I say, why not? And they say, because as a man, you don't want. I say, I think that's doing your son a disservice, because he doesn't understand it, and he's not learning that men do go through things, that we do feel emotions, and so you should show your son, when you're in emotional space, not just go and cry and give him all your stuff, but just allow him the space to see that you go through things as well. You don't have to always be so strong. I think that's important, that we show, just not just men, but just people, in our kids in general, that we go through things. We don't have to try to hide everything from our kids, because kids are a lot smarter than what we believe them to be, and they do know something is going on. They may not know to the extent, but they know that, okay, something is going
They
on.
feel it and they act it out.
Yes.
You'll see
Yeah.
kids having like behavioral issues at school, or,
Yes.
acting out sexually or whatever. And they don't know exactly everything, but they can pick up. They're very like intuitive,
Yes.
pick up on those things. Yeah.
We're coming towards the end. One version of I don't know if this would be considered modeling, but like, or benefiting from modeling that I have been enjoying, or like, is like all the things that we have gone through and went through and learned, I get to kind of pull from that and use that in now new relationships,
Yes.
because and that feels so good. That feels really, really good, especially, all that we've been through. Like, it feels nice to, like, for now, our relationship, for you and I, to kind of be a source of I don't know if this year. Can you
But
hear it?
it's true. But and I just had another thought, and maybe this will be the next episode. It's like, but what happens when your outside partners aren't as emotionally sober as each other, right? Because
Uh,
because you've done all the work, right? And then now you've
uh,
got other partners that are like, oh
Yeah.
God.
oh my
And
God.
to that
Uh,
I say anticipate that as well. And not because the
Mm,
person necessarily isn't emotionally sober, or you aren't in that, but that I think it's just it can often be a natural part of a new relationship.
yeah,
That's what I'm experiencing right now, is that I don't care how well you can communicate and how aware you are of your emotions and all of that stuff. Like, it's just going to happen that you are relating with a new person, and so your shit is going to be triggered again, or in different ways, or unique to that relationship. So
yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Let's do it.
hence the whole, like, there is no healed,
Yeah.
there
There's
is
no healed.
there's no
There's
healed
you two have figured something out,
with
but
each other,
with
right?
each
We
other,
we
yeah.
found our rhythm and our flow, and like, you got to do that every time with every person
Yeah.
that you relate with.
Yeah. I definitely think that'd be a great episode. I'm down to have that.
But the good news is
So,
that you have some, if you've done it once, you can do it again to an
yes.
extent. I mean,
Yes.
assuming that the other person
And
did that with you.
beautiful part of non-monogamy is you still have that anchor partner, that
Exactly.
stuff that you've built with your anchor partner. And in serial monogamy, which I always say serial monogamy is just like the socially acceptable version of non-monogamy.
It is.
In serial monogamy, you don't get that benefit of still having that partner. You're like moving on to the next person all the time.
And you don't have to do the work either. Yeah,
You don't
because
have
you
to do the
you can just
work.
leave a relationship and just, oh yeah, I've been in the past 3 years, I've been in three relationships. Like, you a
No
whole
one's doing the work
relationship?
in those
I
relationships.
don't have
It's
to. My
true.
relationship,
Yeah.
year and a half, year, maybe 2 years at most.
Yeah.
Like nowadays, no one's in a relationship longer than a year and a half, 2 years, like for the most part. And not saying no one,
I
but
mean,
like,
doing non-monogamy, doing it ethically, doing it consensually, doing it mindfully, whatever word you want to use, because I know you don't like those words, um, is basically like relationship. It's relationship 101. And
yeah,
no one in monogamy is really doing that unless they're going to therapy, and then they might be doing some aspect of it,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
most couples are, if
right,
their relationship screws up, they're leaving it behind and just going into another relationship and repeating. And the beautiful thing about non-monogamy, and maybe we can end on this, is that we have that opportunity to, I lost my train of thought.
So what I was going to say is
It
that
felt real good.
right,
Don't try to bring it
what
I
I was
had no
going to
idea what
say,
I was gonna say.
I wanted to remind people because I think that people do this a lot of times. I want to remind people if they do know a monogamous relationship that is doing really well, and is that is an exception to the rule. That's not the norm. That couple is an exception to the rule because if we can, just through all the data and statistics and all the things, we know that that couple, whatever it is that they're doing works for them, works for them. It's not going to work for you. Yours is going to be completely different, And I think that we take a couple and we say, "Oh, relationship goals and all this type of thing," and yeah, that's not who we are.
Yeah. And we are also therapists and coach, right? Like this is what we do for a living. We work with relationships. But I think that like when you get into non-monogamy, and I think this is true for like BDSM, kink, a lot of the queer community, you have to confront some of these issues. And I
Yes.
think that like our like straight heterosexual monogamous people don't have to. So they don't.
Yeah. I say to my couples, if you decide to open up your relationship, all the shit you didn't deal with in your monogamous relationship is going to surface in your non-monogamous relationship. Everything that's set right under the surface is going to come up.
Everything
Just
that's under the rug,
yeah,
here it comes.
it's going to come and you're going to deal with it. But it's
Yeah.
going to make your relationship so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I was thinking too? This is a side note. I like the name of our podcast, Shades of Pleasure, but a cool name would have been It Takes a Village.
Yeah.
I like
I
that.
like that. Wow. Yes.
Change the place. Yeah. Well.
It Takes a Village, the podcast.
Oh well. I want to know what you were gonna say.
I was just gonna say that like when
Sounds
you're
so good.
when you are in monogamous relationships, you have that opportunity to learn and grow. Right? Like I often encourage couples to like, even if you're not into kink or BDSM, take one of those like BDSM 101 classes because they teach you about communication and consent,
Yes.
which our normative culture isn't doing. Like you have to go to the kink community, you've got to go to the non-monogamous community and the poly community, you've got to go to the queer community. Those are where you actually learn how to have real relationships.
Yes. I agree. I encourage my couples to go to attend those as well when they're starting out in non-monogamy.
Yeah, they're good.
Cool. This was a good one.
Yes, it was. I'm looking forward to the
Went by
next one.
fast.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one about talking about I think that's gonna be a great one. But yes.
Yeah. All right, cool. When do you guys want to meet? Oh, stop it.
That we